A couple of comments. First of all, let me tell you, when you grow a mustache the size of mine, you are warm. It is so nice out here when you have this. Actually, I just did that for Wanda because she hates that I have a mustache. Even my own staff calls me Yosemite Sam. That's because I appreciate it. A couple things. Let me tell you the power of not only our nation but of our state. The power of Texas is amazing because it can take you over. Our guest speaker today is from Pennsylvania. Spent his childhood in Pennsylvania where it is 50 degrees colder today than it is here, and he is cold because he has been Texized. He is a Texan now. So you're acclimatized, Paul Payne, to Texas. So I think that Commander Payne had a lot more to say today, but since he did not bring his jacket this morning, his comments will be slightly reduced. A couple comments about Paul Payne. And I got to thinking about this morning in the coldness, and I was watching the forecast come in last night, and I realized that when Ralph Emerson went to Vietnam and laid in a swamp, nobody asked him about the temperature and about what he was going to go through. When Michelle Atkins spent probably most of her entire career in the United States Marine Corps, nobody said, how do you feel about the weather today? And is it okay to get out here today when it's really cold, or when it's really hot, or when the mosquitoes are the size of large pelicans in certain parts of the world, or when you're sitting in combat gear in Desert Storm and you're so hot that you're dehydrated after 20 minutes? All those kind of functions, nobody asked anybody any questions. When the admiral was on ship, nobody said, are you seasick? You just did it. You did it because you cared about all of us you didn't even know. You gave us your freedom so that we could be out here. So if it's a little bit cold, it's not really a question for us in the freedom that we have. As Pastor Emerson said at the beginning of this, the freedom that we have, this day of freedom, is powerful to us. For the veterans who fought for people like me and didn't even know who I was. So I appreciate that very, very much. I'll tell you at the beginning of this introduction that Paul Payne is a personal friend of mine. I think the world of him. I think he's a good person, and I like people to be around that have a good heart and a good mind, and Paul is that very person. He was a graduate of Duquesne University. As I mentioned, grew up in Pennsylvania. He was a squadron leader for F-14s and F-16s. He was the commander of the Naval Air Station, Carswell, here in Fort Worth. And after retiring as a commander and leading many, many men and women in this nation for its freedom, he decided that he would take his business degree that he earned in college and come back and use that degree for the betterment of Fort Worth. And the development around here is not by mistake. When we drive down Magnolia and you've got 17 restaurants to eat at, and you see new hotels popping up, and you see economic development in this part of town that everybody wrote off. Remember the old days of JPS, and people said, I'm never going to JPS, look at it, it's in the worst area, I'm not going to be there. Paul Payne said, I'm not going to put up with that, we're going to change this community. So Paul, you not only were a significant factor in providing those of us who didn't know you at the time our freedom, you've given us an economic diversity to give people jobs and help out in this area. I can't thank you enough for all you've done for us. Paul Payne.
That is a big honor to be introduced by my friend Robert Earl, you, my friend. So thank you very much for those kind words. Most of them, well, some of them are true. Let me get into my speech so we can get warm. Just a few comments. It is an honor for me to be here today and a privilege to address fellow veterans on Veterans Day. Veterans Day has been designated as a day to remember those who served our nation with honor, courage, and commitment. It is a day for us to remember that freedom is not free. On November 11, 1919, one-year anniversary marking the end of World War I, America set aside this day as the Armistice Day to remember the sacrifices of men and women during the war, referred to as the war to end all wars. As we know, it wasn't. Since World War I, more than 520,000 American military men and women have died in wars following the implementation of Armistice Day. pay tribute and honor to those who served in American wars, a proposal was made to change the name Armistice Day. And in 1954, President Eisenhower signed a bill proclaiming November 11th as Veterans Day. I recently came across the definition of the American flag by the late Supreme Court Justice Charles Evans Hughes. I believe Justice Hughes defined the American flag, his definition of the American flag captures the meaning of Veterans Day. He wrote, "The flag means that you cannot be saved by the valor and devotion of our ancestors, that to each generation comes its patriotic duty, and that upon your willingness to sacrifice and endure, as those before have sacrificed and endured, rests the national hope." End quote. Our national hope for the last several decades have rested on you, our veterans. Thank you for your sacrifice to endure and put your life on the line for others. I believe that most veterans become strong leaders by virtue of their military experiences. Many rise to leadership positions much earlier than they might otherwise in other civilian careers. Veterans are often required to perform in highly stressful situations, sometimes even life and death situations. Your service here at John Peter Smith can be equally challenging. In your roles at JPS, people's lives are impacted by your decisions every day, and your military experiences help prepare you to be a leader in difficult situations. I was in the Pentagon on 9/11. The story is much about tragedy as it is about heroism and leadership. Many lives were protected and saved because of decisive actions by countless leaders of all ranks. I was close enough to feel the building shake when that airplane impacted the building, but I was far enough away to be outside the fireball. As the senior officer in my section, I went to Corridor 6 to seek safe passage for the people in my section. And there was a young officer, a soldier, running down the hallway, and he was screaming at me. He had a wall of smoke billowing down. He was running as fast as he could. Go the other way, go the other way. This is what I'm finding about it. People just taking leadership roles and acting. I turned around and closed that door. That section I was in led to 407. I let everybody out of that room, made sure we were out of there, closed the door, we walked everybody out of the building down to the north section. Got in the parking lot, kind of nosed us, said go home. I turned to my buddy Bob, I said let's go. We headed back to the building. We were going to go do what we could, and I accidentally saw big black smoke billowing up, and we went walking that way. And another group of people running down the road screaming, go the other way, go the other way. And there was another airplane. That's what we all knew. There was an airplane coming back, and that was the plane that went down in Pennsylvania. And we all know that was another heroic act by passengers on that airplane that took command. It led to that airplane crashing basically safely other than coming. And most people don't know, one of the targets they were going to, when they came to Washington, they were going to target the Capitol building and the White House. So that airplane was coming back to do a lot more damage. And it was diverted. I went off script here, but let me get back here. My experience has been that in times of crisis, leaders lead. And I think it's true here at JPS. We need leaders. People naturally look for leaders. But people don't follow others by accident. They follow individuals whose leadership they respect. When people respect someone as a person, they admire them. When they respect them as a friend, they love them. When they respect them as a leader, they follow them. The character of a leader is very important. A leader doesn't have to be perfect, but they do have to be respected in order to have influence. J.R. Miller, a famous religious author, said it this way: the only thing that walks back from the tomb with the mourners and refuses to be buried is the character of a man. What a man is survives him. It can never be buried. Leadership is influence, and leaders must earn respect before they gain influence. It's a leader's good character that builds trust among its followers, and it's upon this trust that a leader will gain respect. John Maxwell was a well-known author and recognized expert of leadership, and he addressed this issue of respect in his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He states that leaders earn respect by making sound decisions, by admitting their mistakes, and by putting what's best for their organization ahead of their personal agendas. A leader's good character builds trust among his followers, and trust makes a leadership possible. Break that trust and a leader will forfeit his ability to lead. A superb example of a highly respected and trusted leader is Dean Smith, former head coach, basketball coach at the University of North Carolina. He retired in 1997. His peers throughout collegiate and professional basketball revered him. Even the President of the United States called to honor him. But when I read about Coach Smith, the thing that most impressed me was the way the players interacted with him. They respected him for many reasons. He taught them much about basketball as well as life. He pushed them to achieve academically, with nearly every player earning a degree. He made them winners, and he showed them incredible loyalty and respect. One of the best known players Coach Smith ever coached was Michael Jordan. James Jordan, Michael's father, credited Coach Smith's leadership for a lot of his son's success. Before an NBA game in Chicago in 1993, Michael Jordan's father talked about Coach Smith's influence on his son, and I quote, "People underestimate the program that Dean Smith runs. He helps Michael realize his athletic ability, and he honed it. More importantly than that, he built character in Michael that took him through his career." I believe veterans bring a similar Coach Dean Smith stewardship leadership to JPS. It is no accident that you chose to work here at a public hospital. I am confident it wasn't the high salary that attracted you. Surely. May I suggest it was your passion to serve others. I want to encourage you with 3 principles that I embraced when I commanded an F-14 squadron on a Naval Air Station. First is citizenship. It's the golden rule. It asks that you treat everybody the way you would like to be treated, with respect. If we did that first, we solve a lot of problems right there. Right there. The second ship, ambassadorship. Be proud of the organization you represent. I was in the Navy. I love the Navy, and I was always proud to wear that uniform. In the Army, be proud of the Army. It's the greatest Army on the face of this earth. When you're at JPS, you are a wonderful hospital, and every time you speak, every time you meet somebody, every time you greet somebody, especially with that tag in front of you, you're representing this hospital. Be proud of who you are, because if you're not proud of it, I think you need to move on, quite frankly. Be an ambassador for who you work for. The last one is mentorship. Nobody achieved where they are today without help from somebody else. You're always getting help from everyone. So turn around, find somebody and mentor them. Be an inspiration to help them and bring them up. Those 3 ships, I think, is the greater ship, stewardship. And so I think that's what this is all about. I think what JPS stands for is a stewardship leadership. I think veterans bring that naturally from your experience in the military, and I thank you, I salute you, and I appreciate you.
Let me thank Paul again for his message to us today. We have now Ms. Kristen Taylor, who's going to come and do acknowledgments and appreciation gifts for us. I'm sorry, Kristen is the VA Operations Director for Veterans Administration.